Alright, and here I am back. So the last video I made, it was about at 4 a.m. It's now 4:50. I took a quick little break. It's good to take breaks every 30 to 50 minutes whenever you get the chance. Stand up, go walk around, get your mind off things. Try to get to a point to where you stop thinking about the project you're working on. It's way nicer. So in the last system, we built this spawn order serializer, and what it does is it goes through everything labeled as a player, and it will set the spawn order on that. And with the spawn order set on that, we can now identify players by whatever spawn order they're set as. So let's start up the next thing. Now that we have every player labeled, that's one piece of the puzzle, we need to figure out how to use that to our advantage. Whenever a player goes through a checkpoint, the player needs to be marked, needs to be given some score, and not only do they need to be given a score, they also have to be marked as visiting that checkpoint, so they can no longer trigger that checkpoint. They also need all of their navigation points, the navigation point on that turned to off. So now that we can individually target players, let's work on that. So in testing, when you're testing stuff and you're building individualized components, you make the assumption that every other component is working exactly as you need to. So we will not be using the randomized serializer in here. We will just randomly set the player label and the spawn order for this player. And for us, we'll manually set it, assuming that the randomized serializer works. So we'll set our number manually, and we'll use that to determine to work with the zones. And then at the end, we'll pull all the pieces together and do an integration test to make sure they actually work. What we're doing right now is kind of unit testing in programming terms. So we've got one piece working. Let's get a second piece working. So here is my initialization setup. I always do that. Yeah, okay. So this is our, I never really, I need to set up a new one of these, but it's fine for now. It's doable. I can manage. That's my perfectionism not liking this. Rotate, okay. Alright, so now we have our initialization suite for game on, game off. So this one, we will probably actually play with the game channels because we want to turn the checkpoints on when the game turns on. That's what we want to do. So in order to keep track, so when working with scripting, you have to figure out what data needs to persist. What data do you need to keep around for the long term, not just for one system? So for every single checkpoint, we will need to keep track of whether or not every single player has entered it. And for that reason, we need 16 pieces of memory for every single checkpoint. Which, if you know the memory system, we have power channels alpha through Zulu, which is 26, and that's all the number channels, all the power channels, also alpha through Zulu. So global channels aren't going to work for this because then we have to do completely ridiculous things. We could keep track of things on each player because each player technically has a scoped variable of alpha through Zulu, but I don't like to rely on that. When you start using up actual memory channels, then it's much harder for you to integrate into other people's maps, because they may be using those power channels for other things, other game types, what have you. So instead of doing that, we're going to use local object variables. In Forge, every single object has just this local variable number. So this terminal can have its own number, this terminal can have its own number, and each of these brains can have their own number. And that, like, other things can grab that number, other things can set that number, things can happen when that number changes. And that's a very powerful thing, because that variable also, like, you don't expect another object to change that variable unless it really needs to. Like, because it's not global, because people, like, for the power channels and for the number channels, people may actually use, global channel Papa for a different reason than what we're using it for. We're using it for number of players. Somebody else might use it for number of power-ups, for P. And if that's the case, then if they implement our system with their system, the Papa channel will be conflicting, and they'll run into a problem. And that's not something we want to do. So the less power channels that we use, the better. Right now we're using the Papa channel for a number of players. There may actually be a better way to manage that. I could keep that in another variable, but if I do that, then I also have to manually trigger things being set. So I can do that later. That's a refactoring that we can do later. Right now, it's working as we need it to. No reason to. So we have to keep that in mind. So the best way to manage all this memory is for every checkpoint to have 16 objects, in addition to the base object. The base object will be the checkpoint, the boundary check that does all the things. And then it will have 16 child objects that will change to keep track of each player. And each of those, so the way we will use those is each of those will be numbered 1 through 16 using spawn order. Spawn order is a nice number. It's another number that's on every single object. But that number is actually settable, because we can access spawn order in the menu. For example, let's pull up scripting, this. In the menu, we can actually set spawn order. So my philosophy is to take spawn order and use it as a configurable variable. So what we'll do is we'll have 1 through 16. I'll just do that. So I'm going to duplicate this and set this to 2. Excuse me while this takes a while. Set this to 3. Set this to 4. And 5. And 6. It's getting progressively brighter. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. Oh god. Okay. Back here. No, I don't want to spawn it there. I want to spawn it here. Here. 13. 14. 15. And 16. So we have these 16 objects. Let's highlight them all. Oh gosh, we have 17 objects in here. One of these is not like the other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whoa, is that a second 7? That is a second 7. I found the culprit. All of you can slide over. Really? One at a time? Seriously? Oh, because they're all in normal physics. Oh, I hate that. Please change spawn brain to phased physics by default. I'm OCD. I like to slide these all together. It's just a thing. Don't judge me on it. So while I'm doing this, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set each of these up to do an action when something changes on it. So by default, every single one of these has that local object number that I was talking about. That local object number we're going to use to determine whether or not a player has entered it, or has entered its parent. This will be a child of the zone. Okay, so when a player enters the zone, we will take that player's spawn order, and then we will activate the appropriate child. So for each of these, when it is activated, I want to, so we will activate it by setting its global number to greater than 0. So when this is set to greater than 0, this will, what did we say it has to do? It has to score the player, it has to remove the waypoint that it's given, and it has to mark itself as done, which is done by the parent. So this will strictly just score change, player, and we're going to add all players. Actually, we're going to do this based on label. I'm going to add all players, player, and I'm going to add it based on the order of this. So we'll do, okay. Alright, so we're going to grab the player associated with this spawn order, and we're going to increase its score. And we're going to increment that score by 1. Oh my gosh, that's my alarm. I have about 30 minutes before I have to jump in the shower. Because I have to leave for work at 6:15. So, let's see. So we set the score to that, and then we'll spawn order change. So that marker change we'll remove because we're assuming that the order is already checked. So we'll remove that. We'll move this target. Okay. Actually, no. We will remove the nav point on the parent. So this group parent add, and we'll remove this just because. Wait, I passed remove this. This remove. Okay, so quick explanation of what's happened. I like to turn all these off by default. You know what? I just realized I didn't do this right. Okay, I shouldn't have done it this way, but whatever. I set all the spawn orders first, so I'm just going to make them one single group, clear their scripts. They're all going to have the same scripts anyway. So, let's do this again. So, on number check, this is greater than 0. Then we're going to score this player. Score change this player. The player add. If you're labeled as a player, then you count. So we can use boxes. And this is why we use the player label, so we can use boxes. So the order of this, which each of these 16 objects will have a different order, so each object references a different player, and then we will increment your score by 1. Then we will move your nav point, nav marker, players. So this isn't a very TDD way of doing it for those of you who are programmers. This is not the best way to do this. But ignore me because I kind of know what needs to happen at this point. So include the order of this, so player this, and we're going to remove your nav point on this parent. Group parents add, and then remove this, which should be right there. Okay, so let's catch you guys up on what's happening. So what's going to happen is when somebody enters the zone, it's going to, the zone will find the child of the group that that belongs to that spawn order. It will say number change, spawn order this, child this, or siblings this, whatever. So it'll find that particular object, and it will set its number to 1. And when it sets its number to 1, it will mark that as scored. And so that way the player can't trigger it again because it's greater than 0. Once it's greater than 0, we're just going to do that. It will only trigger once. When it triggers once, it will score the player, and it will remove the nav point on the zone. It grabs the parent. So the parent object is going to be the zone that we work with. So that's that base little thing there. Scripting-wise, we are going to... Now we need an actual zone. Let's do a zone here. Do I want to kind of line it up. Oh gosh, this is set to fixed. Of course it's set to fixed. Phased. That's about the middle, right? Why not? I'm picky. Okay, so what's the floor of this? I think it's like 253. I think is the floor. So we're going to give this a boundary. Boundary of cylinder, radius of blah, top of blah. You get a pretty decent sized top so you can like jump over it and do crazy things. You guys remember the parkour settings, right? If you saw the parkour idea video, you will know. I should totally be able to do that. I'm going to set it higher actually. Man, if I can totally jump that with the parkour settings. I'm gonna set it to 100. Fuck it. All the way to 100. I can change it later, it's not a big deal. Alright, so you will see these gigantic beams of light. I want to make that a little bigger. That should be big, pretty big. Oh my gosh, when you're in here, it is blinding. Maybe I don't want it that high. If anything, I guess I can bring it down. There we go. But then I can't grab it. That's a terrible idea. Why did I do that? Yeah, it looks good. Alright, so you will be blinded by the light. But you will know where to go. Okay, so that will be our checkpoint. Is that even? That's almost even. I'm going to even it out because I'm picky. Oh, not by the half, by the quarter. Is that even now? No. Ah, now it's even. Look at that. I'm so whiny. Okay, so now we have this 3 wide checkpoint that you must pass through. And you must be precise, because parkour is all about being precise. Okay, so we have that. So now, when a player passes through this, on boundary check, enter. I'm going to say all, because I like all, and that way it allows me to use objects to test things. When an object enters this, we're going to number change on some object, and this is where we're going to set the children. So we're going to add this children, group siblings. I don't know why it's siblings. It should, I think that should be changed to children, because siblings can also mean that children reference each other. I don't know if that's actually the case, and that's kind of, that terminology is kind of confusing. So if it's actually just children, add all children in its group. Oh, all children in its group. So yeah, it must be siblings. But yeah, I guess that'll work on child objects will grab all their siblings. I guess that works. Sure, why not? Okay, so we're going to grab all the siblings, but we're going to have it match the order of the activator. Wait, where is it? Please tell me I have an order activator. Oh, okay, good. I thought there wasn't going to be an order activator. So anything that matches the order of the activator, it will number change and set that number to 1. So it'll go from 0 to 1 and trigger the change, and then trigger a score and remove the nav point. Should be easy, right? That's simple. Turn off all this because that's dumb. And since it's a set, it will only be able to happen once. When I walk through this, oh, and also, let's see, on initialize, well, we can reorder this all later. On initialize, on I for initialize, we will give a nav marker to this for everything that's labeled the player. You know what, I'm just going to use actual players for this because I'm lazy. So on initialize, every player will get a target of this. I can change that later. Is there a checkpoint here? I'm curious. There should be a checkpoint. Let's look at all the pretty names. Activating. I'm sure there's a checkpoint. What other cool words do we get here? Checkpoint. So if anything, we can use checkpoint. Collect, complete, create, enter, enter, entrance. Oh man, it'd be cool if on the last one we could set it to say finish. That would be cool. So a little detail and polish, but we'll worry about that later. Go to, goal. I mean, I call them checkpoints. I might as well just pick checkpoint at this point. Lap. Move. Move's not a bad one, actually. Race. Race is a pretty decent one. Score would be okay. Okay, yeah, we'll just use checkpoint for now. I just like scrolling through this list and reminding myself what exists. There's so many awesome things in here. Thanks, Tom and the Forge team, for doing this. It's amazing. All right, so On initialization, we get a nav point on that. Boom, checkpoint. And then when I run through it, what should happen is that nav point should disappear. But right now my spawn order is currently 255. So we're gonna create a scripting. I need to like make this a prefab because I do this all the time on interacted. Going to no, I'm gonna score. No, I don't want to score change first. I want to where's spawn order. That's one of the early ones. Spawn order. I'm gonna set the spawn order of activator to, let's give a random number, like constant, random number from 1 to 16, random on. I wish I could give this an offset, because I think it's 0 to 16 right now. But at the same time, we'll also score change, so that way we know when it's happening. Score change, team set to game value of spawn order of this. So, we set this. Whoa, nothing happened. Why did nothing happen? Oh, no, activator. That's what I want. Wow. Okay, so now we are currently 9. We run through this. What happens? Nothing happens. Because sadness. Okay, so now we have to start doing crazy. Oh, I know why. I know why. Because this is not grouped to this. And this needs to be the parent. Oh my gosh, I'm so blind. Okay, I need to set this as the parent. So you know this is a parent. You see that border change? That changes colors. So that's going to be the parent. So now, oh, it worked. Let's reinitialize it. So that was 9. So 0 should not work actually. Yeah, 0 doesn't work. We said this is 7. Boom. Ah, something happened. Set to 1. Oh, I didn't set the checkpoint. Well, fuck me. So this shouldn't trigger anymore. Yeah, because 1 already entered. How about that? That's how we double check. So 9. So 9's already been entered too. So if 9 goes through it, 9 triggered again. Why did 9 trigger again? 11. Oh, I didn't do the thing. Okay, 11 shouldn't work because I just passed through it. So 10, no. Yeah, 10 works. And then 11. 11 should not work. Yeah, 11 doesn't work because 11's already been through it. 13. 13 hasn't been through it yet. 13 works. And so on and so forth. So if we do 9, oh, we'll turn this on. I should send another initialize message when that happens. So that doesn't work. Okay. Cool. So theoretically, that works. So what's the best way to test this? To actually test this, we need to test this in game because we have to test player scoring, and player scoring is finicky in Forge. Like, you don't get to play with player scoring in Forge, and that's not fun. That's always sadness. 10 has 10 passed you? Nope, 10 hasn't passed you. 12? 12 has not passed you. Ah, 12 worked. Okay, so theoretically, the player score is also going up. And it's not re-triggering. We know it's not re-triggering because when I give it the checkpoint, it doesn't remove the checkpoint. So that's good. That's wonderful. That's exactly what we want. So theoretically, that all works. That could be just all we need, actually. We need to score with a ton of those. So I need a better way to test this, though. So what if I give a bunch of oddballs? I wish I could turn off the boundary. that would be a nice feature. Let me add that to my list real quick before I forget. We would like to be able to turn off boundaries. So let me open Forge Dev Kit, feature requests. Do I have something? Oh gosh. Hold on, I'm doing something on my computer. I have to put in a feature request before I forget. Boundary. Boundary. Really attract the boundary of other objects. Group. Okay, so I don't have a feature request for this. So boundary show change action. We want to be able to show and unshow the boundary, and it would also be nice if we could change the size of the boundary as well. I don't know if that's possible in the system, but I'm going to add it anyway. Check in, added boundary, change action request. Look at that. Now we have a new feature request. And then I will check that in. Get push. Hopla. So now we have this new feature request. Woohoo. Okay. So I added that. So the best way to test this right now, let's have a bunch of balls. Yeah, we'll use a bunch of oddballs. Because oddballs are movable, and I love oddballs that are movable. They're the best thing. So I'm going to set this to normal physics, and what I'll do is on initialization, initialize, on initialization, I want to give this a nav marker of, for all players, add to this, give this a different color, and we're going to set this to 1. And then I'm going to have a second one. Oh, wait. So we're going to set that to 1. We're also going to set its spawn order to 1. And we're going to give it a player, a label of player. So this will serve as a player. Theoretically, when I throw this, oh, it didn't work. Did I already hit 1? What if I did 2? Here, let's duplicate. So this one will be 2. And we'll change this to 2. Did 2 go through there yet? Ah, see? 2 works. Look at that. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm having the balls replicate the player that it's supposed to be. So this will be 3. This will be 3. Oh, I wish we had numbers 1 through 16. That would be great. I'd add that as a feature request, but that's just way too simple for me to ask for. 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7. Oh, what time is it? 8. What time is it? 5:25. I have to run to the shower soon. We're just going to test this and make sure it works. So we got 8 now. Going to make it 9. 9. 10. 10. And I don't think we have 11 through 16. Let me just check real quick. No, that's annoying. Okay, well, I'll just do 10. 10's good enough. So theoretically, we'll take that. Let's duplicate this too. a bunch of checkpoints everywhere. I did initialization checkpoint, right? I think, or like a nav point. I'm pretty sure I did. Oh yeah, because I keep hitting it. So I have a bunch of checkpoints here. Oh, that's not gonna work. Because players add. Okay, well, you know, let's just do it for now. I'm running out of time. So, checkpoint. Well, parkour checkpoint. We could have this game type playable tomorrow. Shit. Parkour checkpoint. So, theoretically, this will probably not work, come to think of it, because the player is not set with the spawn order in this. Oh, actually, when you hit the button, it will be. So, let's test this. I'm gonna test this. Invite only should be fine. So we'll test this, and then I will go get ready for work. But it's always fun building new things. I like to build things. Let's see if magical things work. So, funny story. I can't actually hear in-game volume. I don't have an audio set up for audio solution yet. But I have a chat link cable coming in, so I'll be able to plug that chat link cable into my Xbox controller, put it into the Elgato, and then into my ears, so I can hear the game audio at the same time. So everything's been initialized. Whoa, there's apparently it didn't send initialize. Maybe you can only put nav points when it starts. Okay, so I'm gonna set my player order to 5. So what I want to do is take. I guess I could walk through myself. See, the problem is that I'm testing with waypoints, and balls don't get there. Oh, we can't see what the waypoints the ball sees. If we throw this through, I should get 1 point. Oh, I scored the team though. Okay, let me do a free-for-all scoring. I have to check score. So this will set the player, the team. I've never actually tested scoring. So we're gonna figure that out. So let me change this. Let's turn off teams. That's team changing. Where's teams enabled? Player? Teams off. Okay, no teams. All free for all the time. Oh, that means I won't know what spawn order I am. So I don't know if it'll be turning off mine or another. Because when it turns off the nav points, it'll turn off the nav points for the player that matches that spawn order. So if I'm not that player, then it's not going to work. I don't know what number I'm going to be. Okay, so it gave me a random spawn order. Who knows? Let's see. I'm also not labeled as player, so I can't trigger any of these. Nothing. Wait. Oh, I might have triggered it. I turned off the spawn point for nav point for all players. Something happened. Okay, which one of these is? I can't see the numbers. The numbers are so small. What happens if I throw this through? Well, something happens. So it's turning off the nav point no matter what goes through it. Like, it doesn't matter. Which means my nav point remover doing things. But I'm not scoring any points. So that's sadness. We'll have to play with this. This will be a very weird thing to test, so we'll have to figure that out next time. But hey, I get to run through things. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to have to play with this next time. We'll debug and figure things out from there. I have to go get ready for it. Peace out, guys. See you next time.